All right, so here's our video on vectors. This is from 11.1 from our text here. It's more about the pre-calculus version of vectors. So if you had this with Mr. Wilson in physics, then this will be a review. All right, so what does component form of a vector look like? Some vector operations. Some of these we're going to skip because it doesn't really have anything to do with our calculus needs. Linear combinations and your basic standard unit, and then use vectors to solve. And same, this gets to be a little bit more physics rather than what we need. So some of this we're going to be deleting out. All right, so if you just have a numeric quantity, they call that a scalar quantity. So it's always going to be the same thing. Other quantities such as force, velocity, right, where it depends on the direction and it's going to change, then they're going to have a magnitude and a direction, right, and that's going to be a vector. All right, let's see. So we have things in physics such as area, volume, temperature, mass, time can be characterized by a single number. All right, so then those are scalar. But things like force, velocity, right, direction is important. So that's why those are called vectors. So similar to your array, you got to know where you started and then where you're going to stop. So your vector is going to have a directed line segment similar to the array notation. And then you're going to have the magnitude or length, and that's noted by your double absolute value bars. So that tells you how long is it from P to Q, or the magnitude of that force or that vector. The directed line segment is going to be the same length and same direction, so they're going to be equivalent. So it doesn't matter if that's shifted over. It's more about the angle and the direction than anything else. So the set of all directed line segments are equivalent to the given. So we can call that a vector, and it's going to always be bolded, which is difficult to write. So sometimes they'll put like an extra line on the side to show that it's bolded because you really can't write bold. All right, and in typeset material, vectors are noted by lowercase bold-faced letters, and UVW are the common ones. Just like if you're solving systems of equations, X, Y, Z are the first three people tend to use. When you write by hand, right, we can put the vector notation above to note that we have a vector. All right, so if we have vector V represented by the directed line segment from 0, 0 to 3, 2. So if I go from 0, 0 to 3, 2, that's our vector. And let U be represented by the directed line segment from 1, 2 to 4, 4. And we want to show that they are equivalent. So if I'm going to do that, then I can find V and so I guess one way is the slope and the other way is the magnitude. It depends on which way you want to go first. So I'm going to have to rise 2 and run 3, and from here I'm going to have to rise 2 and run 3. So that kind of gives you the angle that it's coming off of the directed line segment. And then for the magnitude, if you just do the distance formula, that tells you how long it is. So I know that they're heading in the same direction and they have the same length, right? And here's the slope conversation that we did on the other slide. So that tells me that they're going in the same direction because the slope is the same and the magnitude is the same. All right, and here's the calculation for the slope. In algebraic form, we just did it graphically and counted, but you need to do both in order to prove that they are equivalent. All right, the directed line segment whose initial point is at the origin is the most convenient representative of the set of directed line segments. So if you have a choice, you always want to start it at the origin, because then you can look at the end, the terminal point here, and you can calculate out your magnitude a lot faster. So if V is said to be in standard position, the directed line segment whose initial point is the origin can be uniquely represented by the coordinates of its terminal point. So again, the terminal point can kind of tell you. And if we're going to start writing down my coordinates of the vector here, my vector components, you have your bold V, you have your angle brackets indicating it's a vector, as opposed to the parenthesis notation telling you it's a coordinate pair. All right, box definition here, the definition of component form of a vector. A bold vector V in the plane whose initial point is at the origin and the terminal points are at V2. So if I have it at 3 and 2, then I know that I'm always starting at 0 and I'm going 3. So my horizontal change is 3, and then my vertical change would be 2. All right, so if I have a 0 vector, then you have the angle brackets again, and you're saying I'm going to move 0 to the right or left, and I'm moving 0 up or down, which is called the 0 vector. All right, by using the distance formula, which means length or magnitude, because it's in vector notation, the magnitude is what you're going to see more often in terms of direction wording. The magnitude of the vector v is you're just doing the distance formula. All right, so again, they're going to have the double absolute value bars of your vector on the inside. And again, it's bolded so they can put it there. If you're writing it, maybe you're going to do a v with the arrow over to show that it is a vector. Maybe you're going to show the component form with the angle brackets and show v1, v2, again with the double absolute value bars on the outside indicating magnitude. That is the norm, so be comfortable writing it as well as reading it. All right, now more definitions here. So if we're adding vectors or we have scalar multiplication where you're going to double it or triple it, we're starting with vector u with component forms u sub 1, u sub 2, and v1, v2 here, and c is our scalar. So if you wanted to add up vectors, you're just going to add up the components. If you wanted to have scalar multiplication, then you take that multiplier and you multiply the components. If you have a negative of the vectors, you're going to multiply it by a -1, then that's got to be multiplied by both the components. If you're going to subtract, you subtract the components. All right, so this is just how you can move some pieces around here. So they have the first, second grade dotted lines here on the manila paper to make sure that you can see the size. So if this is representative V, then right, 1/2 of V is going to be half as big. 2V is going to be double, right? This one took 2 dotted lines, now it takes 4. Now I've got the negative of V, right? My magnitude is the same, now I'm just going the opposite direction. -3/2 V, same idea. I'm going to be 1.5 in my magnitude length, and I'm going to go ahead in the opposite direction. All right, so now we're going to go through, I've got vector u and vector v. So if I want to find the sum, I can move the pieces together. This is in physics, they call it tip to tail. So my tip of my first one, u, so I'm starting with u, so that I'm going to put my starter v on the end of u and continue. So from where I start to where I finish is going to be the sum. So then I would take my starting value here, and I would take my finishing value. If anything, if I want to move the pieces, I'm probably going to move u to its component form to start off the origin, and then have v come off the tip there, and then connect the dots starting from the origin. It just makes the calculation a lot easier. If you do the opposite, if you start at v and add u to the end, you're going to have the same magnitude length with the same angle, with the same slope. All right, example 3, vector operations. So they're giving you vector v with some digits, vector w with some digits, and they want you to calculate out these 3 parts. So if I'm going to have 1/2 v, I'm just going to take half of each of the components. So I'll have -1 and 5/2. If I'm going to subtract, I'm going to subtract the components. W is first in my subtraction, so W sub 1 is first. So then I'm going to say 3 minus the -2. 3 minus the -2 is 5. 4 minus the 5 is a -1. And again, notice the angle brackets indicating that it's a vector component. Part C is going to be on the next slide here. So I've got V plus 2W. So I'm going to take my W and double it. So I got 6, 8. And then when I add V on it, -2 plus 6 gives me 4. 5 plus 8 gives me 13. So we should be looking at a 4, 13. All right, another box set of information here. Again, this is just properties of vectors. This is what you think it is. Just like from the tip to tail, you can add in any order, so the commutative property holds. If I can add in any order, it doesn't matter. If I've got 3 terms, the associative property of addition holds. If I add the 0 vector on, I maintain, so the additive identity holds. If I have my u and add on the negative of u, I go to the 0 vector, so my additive inverse property holds. All right, so if I multiply by two different scalars, the order doesn't make a difference. So that would be a multiplicative property of scalars. If I have scalars c and d and I multiply by u, I can separate those out if I needed to, or vice versa. If I had vectors that are summed together with a multiplied scalar, I can use my distributive property accordingly. My 1 times u is equal to my u, and my 0 times u is equal to my 0. So some basic addition or multiplication properties are going to hold in vector world. All right, so this is to calculate the unit vector. So the goal of the unit vector is to have the magnitude of 1. So I want the length of a 1. So to get everything back down to the base level, it's almost like having a base 10 mentality. So to do that, I've got to take the magnitude of the whole thing. All right, so if my unit vector u, unit vector being of length 1, v vector being of any vector length whatsoever. So if I take my vector here and I divide by the magnitude, you're just kind of reducing it back down to having that one value. So I would take 1 over the magnitude and multiply by my vector components, and that would ensure that that magnitude of my vector has a 1 length. All right, so now this gets into the i's and j's. Again, this is notation that is intended to be before calculus, and so far we haven't talked about calculus today, and I don't think we will. It's all about notation and how things can be written. So in terms of the i's and the j's, so if you have an I or a j, the I itself is the unit vector 1, 0, and the j itself is the unit vector 0, 1. So if you have an I, it's essentially telling you it's an x value. And if you have a j vector, it's telling you it's a y value. So to combine this over here, so it says let v be 2i minus j. All right, so if it's 2i minus j, well, we'll get to this question, I guess, as we're going. All right, so let's see here. So let u be the vector with the initial point and the terminal point. Okay, so we've got to calculate out the components of u. And then let v be 2i minus j, write each vector as a linear combination of I and j. So they want us to write it in I and j format. And I and j are bolded here because they are individual vectors themselves. So if I want my u, I need to do my subtraction here, right? So my x goes from 2 to -1, right? So that's going to be a change of -3. And then I go from -5 over to 3, so that's going to be an 8. So this would be in vector component form with the angle bracket -3, 8. Since -3 is my horizontal change, you would take that -3 and put it by vector I. And since 8 is my vertical change, you would put 8 with vector j. And then this is the notation in terms of i's and j's as opposed to the bracket. And then you can see the similarities. So if I'm going to calculate w, I need 2u minus 3v. Well, we just found u in terms of I. So if I double that, I'm going to have a -6 plus 16. And here's my -6 plus 16. And my minus 3v. So my -3, my v is up top. So that would be a -6. And I got my -6. And that would be a +3. I got my +3. So now in this notation, we can go ahead and add our like terms together. So we can add all of our horizontal changes. So I've got a -6i, -6i, -12i, plus 16j plus 3 gives me plus 19j. So I know I'm going to go left 12 and up 19, so I'd be located in quadrant 2. All right, so this is more of a physics question. We're not going to talk about this. This breaks down my cosine to horizontal components and vertical components. This isn't anything we need to discuss. This is just a solution. All right. So this is more for the textbook stuff, but we try to avoid some of these. Just realize that if there is any air navigation questions where planes are flying and things like that, they're measured in clockwise, starting from the north. And that is our last piece of information here from 11.1. We got a couple more, and then the new material will be concluded. I'll see you on the next one.